Can you hear me?
Hi, Richard. Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. I'm back on.
Can you hear
Can
me?
we
This
start
is
roll
Val.
call? Yes, I can hear you.
Great, thank you.
Richard, go ahead and call. You can call the meeting to order and then start with our agenda.
Okay, I call the meeting to order at 10:04. Welcome board members and audience at home attending via the webinar to the Industrial Hemp Advisory Board meeting.
Meetings of the Industrial Hemp Advisory Board meetings of the Industrial Hemp Advisory Board are open to the public and comply with the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. This act allows for the public to comment on all agenda items. Audience members that may address the board following each agenda item. All speakers from the audience are limited to 3 minutes. Are there any members of the audience that require accommodations in order to participate in this meeting? Please use the raise hand feature on the GoToWebinar application or send a message to Industrial Hemp if you need accommodations to participate in this meeting.
We will begin by conducting roll call for board members. When called upon, please provide a brief introduction for the audience participating on this webinar. Van Busick.
Hello, I'm here. I'm Van Butzik. I'm a faculty member at UC Berkeley and the co-director of the Cannabis Research Center here on campus.
Thank you, Van. Joshua Chase. Hello, Joshua. Are you there?
Richard, it looks
Okay,
like
we'll
he's
keep
not logged
going.
in
John Courier. Oh, okay. Well, we'll wait a few minutes. Well, I'll keep going on roll call then. John Courier. Lisa Herbert.
Hi, Lisa Herbert, Sutter County Agricultural Commissioner.
Thank you, Lisa. Valerie Milano.
Yes, I'm here. Valerie Milano. I am the chair of the Plant Science Department at Cal Poly Pomona.
Thank you. Ron Porcella.
Yeah, this is Rob Porcella, and I'm a representative of CBD finished goods manufacturers. And I'm also a consultant to growers in the hemp industry.
Thank you, Rob. Vanessa Ramirez.
Good morning. This is Vanessa Ramirez. I am a hemp cultivator in Ventura County.
Thank you, Vanessa. Dave Robertson. Richard Soria. I'm a retired horticulture instructor and a current pest control advisor. Lucas Wilson.
I'm here. I'm a farmer up in Butte County and Sutter County. My companies are NorCal Hemp and Butte Packhouse.
Thank you, Lucas. Lisa Zees. Okay,
Richard?
each board member should have received an email with all the, yes?
Sorry,
Okay,
Richard.
hi, Michelle.
So it looks like Lisa's on, but she does not have microphone capability. So Lisa, if you can hear me, please set up your microphone or call in to this webinar.
Thank you, Michelle. Is Joshua Chase on yet?
No, we do not see him on the list.
Okay, we'll continue. Each board member should have received an email with all the handouts for today's meetings. Copy of the agenda are available for audience members at our website. All handouts will be brought up on the screen and copies will be posted online following the meeting. The topics of discussion for this meeting are brief update on proposed state legislation for industrial hemp. This agenda item has been moved to the top of the agenda to accommodate for the presenter. Brief update on USDA adoption of final rule for hemp production. Update on hemp program review and budget. Registration fee task force report. Brief update on state plan, rulemaking, and other program activities. Are there any other additional requests for corrections or changes to the agenda order? I'll keep going. Please check for corrections on the current board member list posted on the CDFA industrial website. During the board meeting, all board members will not be muted by the program to allow for full participation. To minimize background noise, please make sure to personally mute yourself during the meeting when you are not talking. There are no breaks scheduled on the agenda, but we will take a break approximately every hour as needed or requested. A quick note on public comments. We will have opportunities for public comments throughout the meeting, as well as opportunity for general comments at the end. For comments during an agenda item or pending board motion, please keep comments pertinent to the item or motion. At the end of the meeting, we will have opportunity for additional comments, both related to the meeting and for items not on the agenda. We request all individuals who would like to comment on an agenda item to use the raise hand feature in the GoToWebinar. We also request for each speaker to state their name and affiliation before commenting. Due to the large number of attendees, we will be limiting all commentators to 3 minutes unless they are follow-up questions from the board. We will be timing all commentators and will try to provide warnings prior to the time limit ending. Thank you for your consideration as we try to provide everyone with an opportunity to comment during the proceedings. If you have additional questions for CDFA regarding industrial hemp and the industrial hemp program, please direct your questions to CDFA staff. You may contact them by emailing industrialhemp@cdfa.ca.gov or calling 916-654-0435. Now we're going to have a brief update on the proposed state legislation for industrial hemp. The discussion is led by Assemblyman Cecily Aguilar Curry.
Members of the board, this is John Ferreira. I'm the Chief of Staff for the Assembly member. She is not able to download the software at this time, so unfortunately she's not going to be able to join you today. My deepest apologies for that. If you are interested in asking me any questions or hearing about the legislation, I'm happy to present, but I leave that completely up to you. We mean no disrespect by having staff on.
I'd say go ahead. What do you say, Michelle?
Richard and Robert, we can always postpone this agenda item if needed to provide additional time for Assembly Member Aguilar Curry to download the app. Or if you can just speak about note the bill numbers and speak a little bit about it before we open it up for questions from the board, that'd be great.
I will do a very short version of the Assembly members' presentation if it's the pleasure of the members, and I'm happy to answer any questions on the bill. So I'll just dive in. I'll be very quick, and then any questions you have, please feel free to ask. My name is John Ferreira. Again, I'm the Chief of Staff for Assembly Member Cecilia Aguiar-Curry. Her 4th Assembly District is in Northern California. It represents 6 counties, Sonoma, Solano, Lake, Colusa, Napa, and Yolo. She started work on AB 45. Its original form was AB 228. Right after the governor was inaugurated 2 years ago. We've been working hard on this as a result of the Farm Bill, authorizing the use of hemp products. Unfortunately, hemp CBD is not currently legal in the state of California, hence our effort to try to legalize it. As I think most of you know, that hemp products, hemp CBD products are everywhere in the state of California. Unfortunately, most people don't know that it is not legal to sell them in our state. And so not only is the Assembly member concerned about out-of-state or even international products that are accessible to Californians online or even in retail establishments, these products aren't up to California standards. They don't have California testing, and we need to support our farmers and manufacturers and help them compete in this market with safe products. So we moved forward with that bill. It's been a matter of much discussion with stakeholders, including both cannabis and hemp players, and representatives of the administrative departments, the Bureau of Cannabis Control and the Department of Public Health that have jurisdiction over various aspects of the industry. We definitely welcome the partnership with both the hemp and cannabis industry. We feel like having a non-psychoactive product available at cannabis dispensaries will also help the cannabis industry by bringing people that normally wouldn't go into the dispensaries to seek these products. Right now, the language we have before you is a matter of significant negotiation over the last 2+ years. AB 45 protects consumers with strong labeling standards, preventing misleading consumers, which is often done in the advertisements online for cannabis, hemp CBD products. It ensures that manufactured hemp products are safe in California with robust testing, and guaranteeing a level of safety and peace of mind that's currently afforded to cannabis consumers through regulation. It ensures ongoing communication and collaboration among hemp and cannabis licensing agencies. Again, the Bureau of Cannabis Control and the Department of Food and Agriculture and the Department of Public Health. And it provides a pathway for the incorporation of hemp into the cannabis supply chain by allowing companies to manufacture products, either hemp or cannabis or both, the latter of which would be treated as a cannabis product, obviously, because it has cannabis. I am happy to answer any questions that the board has, and thank you so much again for your patience. Sorry about the technical difficulties for us today.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion or questions from the board regarding this agenda item?
Yeah, this is Rob Porchella with Pacific Hemp Consulting and Royal Element CBD products. I'd read somewhere that, and I applaud your effort to, a path to legal distribution of these products, but I read somewhere that smokable hemp is not going to be a part of this bill. Can you elaborate on that somewhat?
I will say, sir, that the current language in the bill is not set in stone. It is a representation of where we were at the very, very end of the legislative session last year. And we had faced some significant input from some folks in the area of public health advocacy, and we were concerned that the effort to pass the bill and institute a regulatory structure and for the legal manufacture and retail of hemp CBD products might be killed at the end of session if we did not accept language that prohibited smokable. We are in conversations with committees and the members of the administration, and that is by no means a set position. So we would appreciate the board's input and anybody who's interested in those products. And we will continue our negotiations with the committees and with the administration as we go on this year. So yes, sir, the language currently says that because we didn't want to change what we had as a deal at the end of session, but that's by no means a set in stone.
Well, I think in all fairness to hemp farmers, cannabis farmers are afforded the same opportunity. Obviously, nicotine products are provided to consumers as well. We all understand the risks of smoking, but a safer alternative, which I believe hemp products to be smokable hemp products, is a safer alternative to nicotine, and as a non-psychoactive option for cannabis consumers. I think it's critical that language be amended, as like I said, in fairness to hemp farmers as well as to consumers, that they have the opportunity to choose for themselves on that.
Absolutely, sir. Your points are well taken, and we have heard those from a couple of other places, and we are investigating how to get the language changed or removed in the bill. And obviously, most importantly in the legislative process is getting a regulatory structure so that we can legally sell hemp CBD products in California. And if we can increase the amount and kind of products that are allowable under California's law, we are happy to have discussions about doing that. So it is not set in stone, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for John regarding this agenda item? Any motion regarding the agenda item? Any public comments on this agenda item?
Richard, this is Michelle. Let us give us a moment to go through the list of attendees to make sure we're not missing anyone.
Okay.
It looks like Wayne Richmond has his hand raised, so we'll go ahead and unmute Wayne at this time. Wayne, you are self-muted, so if you unmute yourself, you can speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can,
yes.
Wayne.
Wayne, you're unmuted and you can speak.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, good morning. My name is Wayne Richmond. I'm the president of the California Hemp Association, California Hemp Foundation. John, I want to thank you for being here this morning before this board. I did reach out to you in email 2 months ago when this first dropped, December 7th, and had not received any feedback. So I'm glad you're here today so we can discuss this bill. So on the face of it, the labeling in the CBD portion is something obviously we want to be supportive of for the interest of consumer health and good products being on the market versus products that are not properly vetted and with ingredients that we may not want. But part of the problems, as Rob just pointed out, is the smokable hemp ban. And I can tell you that we are dead against that. As members of the Standing Committee of Hemp Organizations nationally, that include 95% of the industry, we collectively are against this smokable hemp ban. So we do need to talk about just removing it. I can tell you that our associates at Vote Hemp have also removed their support of your bill because of that smokable hemp portion of it. And so that's kind of where we stand. Now, another couple of things there, John, that I would like to point out is that while we are, very much interested in labeling and having a good approach, we want to know why we are not at your table. We represent the California farmers, and I have yet to hear from your group. I have yet to receive a simple callback or any invitation whatsoever. So I'm just going to ask you why. Are you just not aware that we exist?
No, sir, I did not. And to be honest, we had a transition in our staff. So the person who was the lead on last year's effort, I mean, obviously I'm the chief of staff, so the staff buck stops here. And my deepest apologies for not having seen your email, but I will, if you can email me, or anybody can email me at john.f as in Frank, ERRERA @asm.ca.gov. I am happy to get back to you, Mr. Richmond, or any folks that are interested in engaging with us. And again, my deep apologies for that. We are welcoming all parties to the discussion, and again, your comments on smokable are noted. I would only say that if the difference between getting a bill passed and having a legal ability to sell these and manufacture these products in the state of California, that will be a concern to the member, but this is very much on our radar, sir, and members of the board, and we are happy to discuss it with you or anybody else that finds it an important aspect of the legislation.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for that, and I'll look forward to our follow-up after this. One thing I'd like to point out that seems to be missing is the recognition that CBD is only a part of the hemp variety spectrum. And so while we are looking to lock down things in a marijuana fashion on the CBD side, it is going to kill any hopes of a fiber industry. And if you're not aware, sir, fiber captures 9 tons per acre per growing cycle. So you have a carbon capture machine that is passive solar and immediately available to participate in the state's climate program. And I suggest that that is a very important feature that it seems the entire legislature seems to be forgetting. Alternately, I'd like to point out that the creating a secondary channel within the dispensary industry is something that I have personally suggested and supported for more than 3 years to our cannabis cousins. But it seems that the direction that things are going is that Bureau of Cannabis Control is going to subsume the industrial hemp program. And I can tell you that this is a USDA approved crop. Marijuana is not, and we will not tolerate that confluence of the two crops. You're going to kill a huge industry for farmers if CBD is your only focus, because it's certainly not the only focus of your cotton farmers and other interested Central Valley and Southern and other regions that are big on growing our wonderful agriculture. Remember, these are our first frontline folks. They feed everybody, including all of our nurses and doctors and frontline folks. So let's support them, please. I look forward to our conversations after this call. Thank you.
As do I, Mr. Richmond. And again, my deepest apologies that nobody from our office get back to you. We pride ourselves on being responsive, and I will get your email if I don't hear from you, and I will find you. So please be sure that will happen, and we can talk about all these issues. Just one comment that you made, I want to make clear. I work for a farmer. The assembly member has orchards in Winters, California, and her family has for generations. She gets agriculture. She is a fierce protector of our agricultural industry and family farmers. I want to make clear to the board and to you, Mr. Richmond, that this is a very targeted piece of legislation. Very supportive of Senator Wilk's bill on agricultural practices with hemp and allowing the agricultural production. Just because a bill focuses on one thing does not mean that it is meant in any way to prohibit other activities or products. And that's certainly our goal here, so we can talk about that as well, sir.
Great. Well, I look forward to that. And if I might make one comment, and I thank you for sharing that you have a farmer sense of things, because that really, to me, is what seems to be so missing from most legislators' approach, including Senator Wilkes. I will tell you that the last two attempts that he made, starting with 228 and then what is it, 2028, we were instrumental in killing that. So just so you know how strong an opposition we can play, or how strong a partnership we can play, is really all up to having us at the table and not just listening to small advisory groups that have their own self-interest, such as the California Hemp Council. They don't represent anybody but a handful of very rich CBD interested folks, to be perfectly honest, and they do not represent the small and medium-sized farmers who make up the bulk of the registrants in this state, sir. So just wanted to put that out there so that everybody knows who we're fighting for, the small farmers. So we appreciate your help in this. I would also ask one thing to consider. Since the carbon capture program does not seem to be open to agriculture, we need to change some language there to allow for that, particularly with hemp and hemp fiber, as the numbers coming out of San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly, from Dr. Peter Schwartz are that approximately 9 tons per acre in a row crop is sequestered in the 90 to 100-day growing cycle. So we can get 2 to 3 cycles per year. That's a lot of carbon captured and sequestered. And if we turn that into home building products that are fire resistant and mold resistant, you'll find we can do one hell of a new Green Deal in the state of California. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for allowing me this time to talk.
Okay, and then this is
Go ahead,
Michelle. We don't have any more hand raises, but we do have 2 written comments from Robert Burns. So the first comment is, who seriously smokes hemp? And then the second comment is, yes, the growing of crops and trees seem to be curiously ignored, or is that what it is? Oh yeah, curiously ignored. I apologize, I can't read the screen. In the climate change discussion. So again, his second comment was, yes, the growing of the crops and trees seem to be curiously ignored in the climate change discussion. And that is it.
Okay,
So
thank you, Michelle.
it looks like Luke, you can speak at any point. You can just unmute yourself.
Okay, hey John, this is Luke Wilson, farmer up in Northern California in Butte and Sutter County. I'm just going to kind of add to those last comments on the ban on the smokable hemp be detrimental to my business, and we would love to work with you guys on you know, how to figure that out to, you know, omit that from that language in that bill.
We welcome the discussion, Mr. Richmond, or Mr. Wilkin, excuse me.
Okay. We have 2 more hand raises from the members of the public. So the first one is Victor Barrio. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your last name correctly. You're unmuted, so you can unmute yourself and speak at this point.
Thank you, everybody, for having this and allowing us to speak during these times. I noticed that there was a comment that asked how many people smoke hemp. There's actually a lot of people that smoke hemp. I am a pre-roll producer out of San Diego, California, and we this year we produced, or last year we produced over 1 million pre-rolls that were sold all over the country, and we have, you know, we're one step out of this state as we speak because of the regulations that you guys are getting ready to put in place. And so I really urge you guys to really take a look at the smokable hemp space, see what kind of wellness it is doing for people, because we get a lot of feedback on, you know, different things that it is helping them out with, and really taking an actual look at it and not taking the cannabis regulations and implementing them in this. You know, I come from the cannabis industry. I have 10 years of experience in this, and I have a lot of friends that own some pretty large companies in the cannabis side of things, and I know that cannabis is a huge lobby it's hugely lobbying against the hemp smokable industry because it will take market share from them. At least that's what they think. This is a completely different product that somebody that is willing to smoke THC doesn't smoke, and vice versa. So please take a look at it and do some regulations that are actually going to help the industry and not destroy it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have one more hand raised from Chris Boucher. So Chris, you can unmute yourself and speak at this time. Chris Boucher, you can speak at this time. Please unmute yourself to speak. Hi, Chris. I noticed that you raised your hand again. We have unmuted you, so you can unmute yourself to speak. Okay, it seems like we can't get a hold of Chris Boucher, so go ahead and unraise his hand, and then we'll come back to you, Chris, if you have a question. We do have a written comment from Robert Burns. It reads, I grow hemp and I ingest it regularly. Ingestion is by inhalation, especially smoking, is unnecessary and unwise, but I favor allowing those who smoke it who don't know better. I apologize again. It's difficult for me to read the screen. It's quite small, so I'll read it again. I grow hemp and I ingest it regularly. Ingesting by inhalation, especially smoking, is unnecessary and unwise, but I favor allowing those to smoke it who don't know better.
Hey, John, would you mind giving your email address one more time?
Of course, john.f as in Frank, ERRERA at ASM, that's Apple Sam Mary, .ca.gov.
Thank you.
And for the board and members of the public, just one quick comment. We're trying to get this done. We want to get the widest range of products regulated and available to Californians. The assembly member is in this because we are trying to be helpful to the industry. And so we welcome all comments. And we need to get 54 votes in the assembly and 27 in the Senate. So whatever all of you can do to help us get to those vote thresholds, we very much appreciate it and welcome your partnership.
Okay, so it looks like we have a couple more additional comments. So the first one is Carmel, and I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name, but we'll unmute you at this time and you can speak.
Thank you so much. My last name is Ungerleider Abrams. I'm with the organization Cosmic Brands Corporation, and we create hemp pre-rolls, really. We have lots of clients and customers who do smoke for migraines, for relaxation, for anxiety. And so taking this away from them is not helping their medical state. So I really encourage you to please continue to allow hemp growers, hemp producers, hemp processors, and companies to be able to provide a helpful medicinal product to those in need. Thank you.
Members of the board, I just want to remind everybody that hemp CBD products are currently illegal in the state of California. And so we are trying mightily to have the state government recognize that hemp and hemp CBD products are healthy, and when regulated, are something that we should be allowing California consumers to take advantage of.
Okay, it seems like Chris Boucher now has access to unmute his mic, so we're going to go back to Chris Boucher. Can you unmute Chris Boucher? Okay, so Chris Boucher, you're self-muted, so if you unmute yourself, you can speak at this time. Okay. Okay, Chris, it seems like you're still having technical difficulties. If you would like to type your message to us, we can share that with the board. So the next person who is interested in speaking is Jeffrey Noon. I apologize if you just raised your hand. We'll move on to the next speaker. Jeffrey, we have unmuted you. Please unmute yourself to speak.
Okay, can you hear me clearly? Hello?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, excellent. This is a very important move in our country and for the United Kingdoms and the United Nations. Hemp has been in every known civilization, especially in Rome, for materials for war, materials for clothes, fuels. I understand the CBD, the THC variants for the medical marijuana companies, for the industrial hemp companies. The separation of the THC values, I think, has been extraordinary, because with the United States Department of Agriculture making this a crop, it's being treated like marijuana. And it needs to be treated more like corn, or if we're making vitamin D. CBD is a vitamin. The endocannabinoid system is in every vertebrate. So with that being said, this is actually a health, not a marijuana recreational issue. It's not someone who's trying to avert their mental capacities to like alcohol. But alcohol is legal. That has, I understand, the same criteria as what we're trying to do with marijuana. But it just seems like marijuana has been taxed specially, is treated special. And now that the industrial hemp is now on deck, we have, just like with smoking tobacco, there is a special tax for tobacco. I understand that. But when we try to put the categories of what we can do with industrial hemp, from the roots creating batteries, the fibers that go into building materials and our clothing lines, and the grain going into biofuels and bioplastics, and the actual omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids that are found from that the actual seed itself. I need to see this in food production. We need to see this in health supplements. This isn't something that needs to be sold at a specific marijuana dispensary. This is something that is already at the same level of tobacco if you're smoking it. If people have the choice, you get high on tobacco. If you don't smoke nicotine and you take a drag of a cigarette, yes, you're going to feel funny. But the actual psychoactivity of cannabis in the hemp format, there is no psychoactivity. And even up to a 0.1 is still not enough THC for psychoactivity. So us hindering and putting criminal liability on farmers, I thank God and I thank our leaders for recognizing that. But for destruction of a crop, if it goes over 0.3%, and then criminal liability at 1%. These are something that we really, yes.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Can you please finish your sentence, and we need to move on to the next speaker.
Absolutely. That I really like our leaders to look at this for what it is, and it is going to help our country, not hurt it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead to Rachel O'Brien next. Rachel? You're unmuted and you can unmute yourself. Yep, I can hear you. Rachel, you're not coming in clearly. Rachel, if you can hear me, you're not coming in clearly, and so you're being muffled right now.
I don't know what to do. I don't know. Can you hear me at all?
It's very difficult to hear you. It's actually a lot of static coming through. Rachel, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we really can't hear you at this time. Okay, so it looks like Rachel's having some technical difficulties here. We'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Let's start with Chris Boucher again. You have your hand raised. We're unmuting you. You can now speak. Okay. Chris, we do not hear you, so unfortunately we're going to have to move on to the next person. So it looks like we have a comment from Cole Sunny. Sorry, I apologize if I am not pronouncing your last name correctly. The question is, does the legislation address addition of CBD in food and beverage products, which the FDA has imposed jurisdiction on?
It does. The bill simply states that the existence of CBD as an additive by nature would no longer make a product illegal.
Hey, John, this is Luke Wilson, board member. Can you give us some clarity on why the smokable ban was added to this?
That was the point at which we left off at the end of session, sir. It was there were several people trying to resist the effort to legalize hemp CBD. We had a huge coalition in support from ag and from manufacturers and retailers. But you know, when you're going for a 2/3 bill, which is necessary for this product, you know, you got to try to bring as many people under the tent as you possibly can, and we had to make a judgment at the end of session and introduced again the language as picking up where we left off, that the existence of smokable was going to generate enough opposition from public health advocates that we were going to have to take that language. So what I am asking all of the people who are commenting in favor of smokable or vapable product is, you know, the rule of 54 in the Assembly and the rule of 27 in the Senate is what we've got to deal with. And the more support we get from you for the widest range of products, the more success we'll have in adding the widest range of products.
Okay.
Gotcha. Is hemp CBD legally prohibited, or is it just not explicitly legal?
Hemp CBD as an additive is not legal in the state of California. Which to the Assembly member is sort of an uncomfortable reality in our legal and regulatory system because cannabis CBD, which public health advocates have not said is any different from a public health perspective than hemp CBD, is available in every dispensary in the state of California. And so we're just seeking equity in the treatment of CBD, regardless of the source being cannabis or hemp.
Hi, this is Michelle. So for the sake of the time that we have allotted for this meeting, we really need to move on to the next agenda item. So John, thank you for presenting. Richard, would you like to move on to the next agenda item? And then for those of you who have comments, if we have time at the end of this meeting, you may comment at that time.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, members of the board, for your time.
Richard, you're self-muted, so if you'd like to unmute yourself to speak, you can do so at this time. Okay, it looks like Richard's having some technical difficulties here. So we'll go ahead and go on to the next presentation, the next agenda item, which is a brief update on the USDA adoption of the final rule for hemp production. I will be leading this presentation, so we'll begin. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Can you hear me now, Michelle?
Yes, I can hear you, Richard.
Okay. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Okay, no worries. So I want to start off this update by providing an overview of the federal legislation and regulations. So on December 20th of 2018, the Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018, or also known as the 2018 Farm Bill, was signed into law. The 2018 Farm Bill authorizes USDA to develop national regulations related to the cultivation of industrial hemp. It also required states, territories, and Indian tribes that allow hemp cultivation to submit a state regulatory plan to USDA for review and approval. Since the 2018 Farm Bill, USDA established the U.S. Domestic Hemp Production Program through the interim final rule that was published on October 31st of 2019. The interim final rule outlined the requirements for the state plan approval and established a federal plan for hemp cultivators in states or territories without a USDA-approved production plan. And most recently, USDA published the final rule on January 15th of 2021, which amends the state plan requirements established through the interim final rule based on the public comments and the firsthand experience through the 2020 growing season. The final rule is set to take effect on March 22nd of 2021. Next slide. Okay, so you can review the text of the final rule on the U.S. Federal Register website using the link provided on this presentation. USDA has also posted links and additional information on their U.S. Domestic Hemp Production Program webpage. Some of the notable changes to the state plan requirements include harvest must be completed within 30 days of sample collection. Previously, the harvest requirement was 15 days in the interim final rule. The final rule also allows alternative sample methods in state plans. The final rule provides more specific examples of alternative sampling methods using a performance-based approach. The DEA registration for laboratories has been delayed until January 1st of 2022. The negligent violation threshold for THC concentration has increased to 1% for state plans. Previously, the threshold for negligent violations was 0.5. Please note that this threshold is for negligent violations and is not the threshold for a crop to be considered passing. Hemp is still defined as cannabis containing no more than 0.3% THC. And lastly, the final rule allows for state plans to include alternative disposal methods, including remediation. Again, for more information regarding the final rule and additional guidelines, please visit the link at the bottom of the slide. And so that's all I have to present. So at this point, are there any questions from board members?
I have a quick question, Michelle. At what time will these be approved and implemented into the state plan? And sorry, this is Rob Porchella again.
Hi, Rob. So I will touch on it with our program updates later this in the agenda item. So if you want to hold on to that question, and I'll address it later on.
Thank you.
Any further discussion from the board regarding this agenda item?
Michelle, did you say that you're going to go into the California, that what the CDFA plan is?
Yes.
That was the USDA?
Yes, part of our program updates will be addressing our efforts with the state plan.
Okay.
Michelle, this is Lisa Herbert, board member. Do we have any information from USDA about President Biden's executive order giving him time to review all new regulations, and if USDA is going to go back out for comment?
We haven't had any confirmation regarding the final rule for hemp, if that's going to go back out to public comment. There is a possibility that that may happen, but we haven't heard anything from USDA that is concrete that they are moving to open the final rule up to public comment.
So that being said, this could delay the final rule for some time, correct?
Yes, so if they do decide to go back out to public comment, it could potentially delay that effective date of, what was it, March 22nd. It may delay that date. So Richard,
Any further
oh yeah, Richard,
Go ahead,
this is
Michelle.
Michelle. It looks like we don't have any comments, written comments from the board members at this time.
Okay, well, let's open it up for public comments on this agenda item.
Okay, so it seems like we have one raised hand from Wayne Richmond. So Wayne, you're unmuted and you can unmute yourself at this time to speak.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Again, this is Wayne Richmond, President, California Hemp Association. With regard to the USDA information that you just shared, I did want to share with Lisa and others that today is the start of the World Ag Expo. It's the digital version at 2 o'clock this afternoon. I will be moderating a pre-recorded session that covers, in fact, the USDA current rules. And as we are part of the standing committee of hemp organizations under the National Hemp Association wing, as I mentioned earlier, we have already reached out to the Biden administration. It does look like we may have a review again, so that's more likely than less likely at this point. And regarding the items that you mentioned, the 30-day harvest window, all sample methods, and 1%, those are all good and new and interesting, and I'm fascinated to see how we're going to incorporate those here in California. But one of the most important salient points of the Farm Bill that is only touched upon when the word remediation is made is the word disposal versus destruction. There is nowhere in the USDA language, there is no information in the Farm Bill that requires crop destruction. I make this point loud and clear to those of you from OAL who are listening in, and to Mr. Ferrer as well, because none of that is federally mandated. So it seems to us that that gives us as a group and as a state an opportunity to help our farmers and not hurt our farmers. So as we talk about opening up new markets and CBD and all that, remember that the word in the language officially is disposal. And if you look it up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, that does not necessarily require destruction. I'll leave it at that. Thank you for the presentation, Michelle. That was good. And we look forward to hearing how all that works out in the California plan. Thank you.
Thanks. And then we do have a written message from Josh Schneider. He's asking if where he can find a copy of the submitted plan submitted to USDA. I'll touch on that later at the next, well, not the next agenda item, but the last agenda item on this today's meeting. But we'll hold that question for that agenda. Okay, is there any more questions? We've received comments from Rick Roa. Rick, would you like us to unmute you so that you can speak? Rick, you're unmuted at this time. You can speak.
Thanks, Michelle. I meant to do this earlier. I just wanted to pose the question. Some of the discussion that was focusing on around the proposed legislation, if the Industrial Hemp Advisory Board has the authority to weigh in on proposed legislation, and I wanted that information shared with the board and with the general public as well.
Sure, Rick. So the purpose of the board is to make recommendations to CDFA and the Secretary of CDFA. So that pertains to, the program within Division 24 of the California Food and Agricultural Code. So I hope that answers your question.
Not totally, but does the board have the legal authority to give an opinion and make a recommendation on legislation?
If the board wishes to make a motion, they can. It's just I don't know if that's something that the board has, if there's any way to, I guess, implement what the board is requesting.
Okay. I would recommend you get a legal opinion on that from CDFA staff, legal staff.
Well, Josh Kress is actually on this call, and it seems like he has his hand raised. So, Josh, would you like to speak? We've unmuted you. You can unmute yourself.
Hey, Michelle, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, and good timing because I was about to leave. Just to clarify Rick's question really quickly, is that the statute that authorizes the board does allow for the board to make recommendations pertaining to legislation. However, as Michelle was mentioning, the board makes recommendations to the secretary, and we have engaged this question previously on previous legislation, and there is no defined manner in which the secretary then does not make recommendations to the legislature. So the manner in which that information we've provided to the legislature is a little convoluted, but it is open for the board discussion, and we do want to make sure that we are providing information to the industry and using this as an opportunity to provide information to the industry that would be valuable and relevant. So no, I appreciate Rick's comments, but it is outlined in legislation, but it is a little confusing as far as how that would actually play out if the board were to make a motion.
Thanks, Josh.
Yep.
Okay, Richard, it looks like we do not have any more questions or comments for this agenda item, if you would like to move on.
Okay, we'll move on to the update on industrial hemp program revenue and budget. Okay, Michelle?
Yes, so, okay, thank you. And so before we move on, the registration fee task force requested that I provided an update at this meeting to help set the stage for their next for the next agenda item. So we'll go ahead and go through that. So in regards to let's see. So this is just a quick revenue update. So we started collecting registration fees back in April 30th of 2019. Since then, we have collected a little over $1 million. This is just showing a breakdown per fiscal year of how much we've collected. Obviously, we've seen a significant decline in the revenue collection this year because of the decline in registration overall. So go ahead to the next slide. So the next slide provides a breakdown of the registration activities by fiscal year. We are projecting a slight decrease in the number of registrations issued, registered acreage, and registration amendments. As you can see, we're projecting 600 registrations this year with a total of 15,000 registered acreages and about 825 registration amendments this year. So next slide. So the next slide provides a budget summary by fiscal year. The program started accruing costs back in fiscal year 16-17, and in fiscal year 19-20, the significant increase there correlates to the beginning of our registration activities. There may have been some slight adjustments from the last time these numbers were presented to the board as our financial services branch continues to make necessary adjustments to reflect actual program costs. Next slide. So this year we are projecting to spend a little less than what was spent last year. We're seeing a total of $1,802,981. So we projected a total of for personnel services at $651,000 and a total operating expenses and equipment at $135,000. And the county agreements have totaled up to a little over $1,016,000. Again, that's for a total projected budget of $1.8 million this year. Next slide. Counties are currently receiving reimbursement for certain activities through CDFA. This slide provides a comparison of the reimbursable activities from our last county agreement and our current county agreement. The main activity that we are currently reimbursing the counties for is registration and renewal activity. Next slide. So this slide provides a our current funding condition based on our projections for this year and the next 2 years, as well as projected costs. So we're currently not collecting enough fees to cover actual program costs, and we're accruing debt year after year. The department generally recommends that revenue-based programs maintain a fund reserve between 1/3 and 1/2 of our annual expenditures. So at this rate, we're projected to be over $5.5 million in debt by the end of fiscal year 22-23, or $6.5 million if we're trying to maintain the recommended fund reserve. So I believe that concludes my brief update on the budget revenue and budget update. So if we have any questions from the board, I can answer them at this time. So Richard, it looks like we don't have any comments, questions from the board members.
Okay, do we have any public comments on this agenda item?
So it looks like Wayne Richmond has raised his hand. So Wayne, again, just a friendly reminder, we are limiting commenters to 3 minutes.
Yes, hi, can you hear me okay, Michelle?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Wayne Richmond, President, California Hemp Association. I'll make a quick question. This doesn't seem sustainable. I think the numbers are pretty telling. And at what point do we stop this insanity? I mean, quite frankly, with the income that you're showing here versus the outflow, particularly the county agreements and the personal services, where the bulk of the expenditures are, don't seem to be appropriate given the amount of income. So I would just ask, who's making these decisions, and do these people who are making these decisions run their own personal budgets this way? I suspect not. So what's going on, and when can we expect this to stop becoming a hole that will never be filled, and hence ridiculous fees that will kill a market? That's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
So Wayne, we have a report from the registration task force, registration fee task force up next, and hopefully that will answer some of your comments or concerns. We do have one written comment from Marilyn Palmer Townsend. Will the slides be made available after the meeting? The slides are currently available on our web page. If you click on our web page and go down to the Industrial Hemp Advisory Board section, you'll see a link for board meeting information. If you click on that, you'll be able to access the handouts for today's meeting. So Richard, it looks like we don't have any other comments at this time from the public or from the board.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item. It's the registration fee task force report. I don't know if we ever got a hold of Joshua, but Vanessa, she's here.
Josh is not here?
Josh is on the line. So Josh and Vanessa, you're both unmuted, so you can both speak at this time.
So I could start really quickly. The task to advise on the appropriate registration fee, a new fee structure has been challenging, and as we want to promote hemp. I believe that it is better to increase revenue through the numbers of registrants than charging higher fees to the few farmers that are still trying to grow. However, we still need to figure out what we are going to do. And back on after the meeting that we had on October 26, 2020, we went through the options of the fee structures and schedules. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Can I make an initial opening statement as well?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so yeah, it was challenging. This is our second time presenting something to the board, and unfortunately we have these large budgets that we've dedicated to the county that we can't change, and we continue to hire more people at the state level, where I think eventually we're going to have to look at this and decrease those numbers, both at the at the state level and at the county agricultural commissioner's offices. But unfortunately, we're in this deep hole right now, and we've kind of got an ultimatum put to us from the state that if we don't make some sort of decisions now, that the CDFA is going to make decisions for the public or for us. So that being said, we'll run through these. We'll run through all the things that we looked at and what we should continue to look at. And I'll let Vanessa start.
So we'll go through the option 1 that we discussed back on October 26, where we propose a base fee. I believe this fee was almost a $5,000 fee. Then we discussed option 2, which was a base fee plus an acreage fee and an amendment fee. We went to option 3, a site fee, acreage fee, and amendment fee. Option 4, base fee, indoor square footage fee, outdoor acreage fee, amendment fee. And option 5 was a base fee and a revenue fee. Unfortunately, for option 5, since we are such a new industry, there is really no enough data to go after the revenue fee yet. Can we go to the next slide, please? Josh, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah. So there's additional activities following the task force meeting. We reviewed fee structure schedules and budgets from other states, where, currently it looks like we're spending about $5,000 a person or per registrant, where other states, are in the well below 1,000, and some are in below 500. We interviewed some agriculture or county agriculture commissioners regarding their workloads. And then we also explored additional fee structure options. We go to the next slide.
Josh, before
Yeah.
we move on to the next slide, can I make a comment on the previous slide? So when we reviewed the fee structure and the schedules and the budgets from the other states, I do want to note that we had very limited data from those states, and we're aware that some of these states did get seed money for the program. So it was really hard to pinpoint what was the actual cost per registrant for those states, as well as how much money they were actually collecting.
I would also like to add that we did do a due diligence in all of these meetings on October 30th. As Josh mentioned, we actually reviewed the 5 different states. We compared Colorado, Kentucky, Nevada, Oregon, and North Carolina. And on November 20th, we met with 6 different counties. It was Butte County, Fresno, Lake, Riverside, San Diego, and Santa Cruz. And we went over all of the different activities and how long does it take for them to do everything. And for the additional fee and structure options, we actually went over the current registration that we have section by section, and we compared against the 5 different business models. We go to the next slide, please. Now, after looking at these multiple meetings that we had, we also discussed the potential impacts due to the lack of funding. Number 1 is all borrowed monies must be repaid with 1% interest. And we currently, actually, there is a limited amount of reserves to borrow from. So we are not able to borrow as much anymore. Number 2, there is a delays. If there is a delays in fees increases, it will result in a higher fee later. Also, the reduction of programs activities, federal and state compliance issues, it will diminish. So the CDFA rulemaking, the board meetings, trainings, and support for counties and public outreach will diminish. And for the counties, the registration and regulatory enforcement. Number 4, the CDFA may raise fees by the lack of board recommendation, as they have the obligation to establish a registration fee to cover actual costs. And number 5, if the counties are not funded, they have the choice of banning the hemp program by imposing moratoriums. Any comments from Josh or Michelle?
No, yeah, and I guess going down to the last one, if we don't, we've been told if we don't recommend a new fee schedule, that the CDFA is obligated to establish a new one. So that's where we're at today.
Can we go to the next slide, please?
I can go through this. So with the deficit we have, this is our proposal. We'd like to increase the base fee $200. And I hate to say this, but to make this equitable, to make and create this, fill in this deficit, we found that around $100 per acre will fill in this void. There's an indoor square footage fee, and then there's amendment fees. Do you want to go up or say anything else to this, Vanessa?
Yes, so once we take into consideration this rate and the amount of units, as you can see, we will have an estimated revenue of $2.2 million. And this fee structure will be able to allow us to reduce the debt by an average of $350,000 per year, and will get us out of debt and even be profitable by 2029, 2030, which we can see on the next slide. So as we can see in 2029, 2030, we'll be able to actually be in the black by $141,000.
And Vanessa, this is Michelle, and I just want to clarify that this proposed fund condition, or the fund condition based on our proposal or your proposal, this is assuming that things are remaining constant and we're not having fluctuation in our costs.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So I think this is we're going to need to reevaluate this periodically throughout the year. Or I think it should be an ongoing item that we continue to evaluate.
Yes. What we are proposing, and if we could go to the next slide, is to have a registration fee review the late of 2021, have a program budget and reserve balance review at the end of 2021, and propose amendments to the registration fees for board consideration in early 2022 if we think it's necessary.
Yeah, I have one more thing on here too. Getting back to John's presentation earlier regarding bills that are passing through the House or Senate or at the state level. And I think as a group, the industry should probably be pushing to get seed money to help with these fees that we're going to have to absorb. I can't remember which states had done that, but there was initial seed money that was put into these bills. Say it was 3 million, 5 million, and it made the registration fees very low. Should we go to the next slide?
Josh, that's the end of the slide.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess we should just open it up for discussion.
Richard, would you like to open it up for discussion for the board?
Sure. Any further discussion or questions from the board regarding this agenda item?
This is Lisa Herbert, Ag Commissioner, board member. I do have quite a few comments to make. It's an unfortunate situation for CDFA that they're in. It's also an unfortunate situation for agricultural commissioners. I have asked and received our annual financial statements that ag commissioners are required to turn in at the end of October every year. And in fiscal year 1920, we had $2.8 million in expenditures, and we recovered $544,000. which shows that ag commissioners were in the hole in fiscal year 1920, approximately $2.3 million. It is not sustainable for local counties, and it's also not sustainable for the state. A couple other items that I would like to bring up, that now with the new regulations, we now have CCR 4930, which requires an annual inspection by ag commissioners, and CCR 4950E, which means that ag commissioners shall verify destruction. Both of those are unfunded mandates that are additional tasks that are imposed to ag commissioners with no cost recovery. Of course, each county can adopt their own local land use ordinance that some of us have done and some of us are working towards. But the problem that it creates for the industry is that each county then has different fee schedules, different requirements, different bufferings, and it can be very difficult for the industry to navigate individual county things. I also want to point out Food and Ag Code 81005A that, you know, the department shall establish registration fees to cover the actual costs of implementing, administering, and enforcing the provisions of this division. Same goes for item C. The Board of Supervisors of a county may establish a reasonable fee to retain and recover our costs. An initial statement of reasons that CDFA had put out in a previous regulations that industrial hemp crop can yield 20,000 per acre. I'm not certain that that is correct, but with that type of revenue generated, you know, I think the industry can support increase in fees. So I've done a little bit of research. I'm very concerned that the industry cannot sustain at the state or local level with this kind of deficit. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Lisa.
Lisa, this is Vanessa, hemp farmer, and I see your point, and
Any further questions from the board?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Oh, thank you. This is Vanessa, hemp farmer, Ventura County. I understand what you're saying, Lisa, and I am pro county. My Ventura County is a very supportive county, and I see all of the help. Same thing with the CDFA. Also, these registrations increases as a farmer, as a hemp farmer, will definitely affect us. As you probably know, when you say that you did some research, and some of the public must know that to grow hemp for just CBD extraction doesn't really pay the type of rents that we have to pay here in California for the land. Perhaps the smokable flower is something that will allow us to do that. So it is a very touchy situation for all of us. When Josh and Michelle Locke were helping us to navigate through some of these fee structures, we really tried to figure out what would be the best for everyone, including the CDFA, the county, and the farmers. And unfortunately, we don't see something that will be the silver bullet for everyone. That's all.
Thank you.
I have another comment. This is Josh Chase. I think we are in a very unfortunate situation here. And I think, you know, putting these fees on this is really going to kill any protein or fiber production in the state. If we have other bills that, you know, are going to eliminate smokable flower, there just really isn't going to be an industry or hemp industry in California with these fees and with the current legislation. So yeah, I don't know. It's an unfortunate tasks that we were set forth to try to figure out. And I don't think it's the best, it's obviously not the best thing, but it's all we can, it's the best that we can figure out today. And I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Josh.
Hi, this is Van Butzik. I just want to thank everybody for their work on this. Definitely a thankless job, sort of. And I guess I had sort of two questions. One being, it seems like there's sort of three different problems. The first one being there's unfunded mandates for the county. The second one being the cost for the CDFA to regulate is fairly high for whatever reason. And then the third one is, the farmers having to pay for it all. And so I guess I have sort of a procedural question, which is one, does the board have any agency in how the CDFA spends its budget within this program, or is that something the board just takes as a given and we that's not something we are involved in? So I guess that's the first question, is like, does the board have any impact on the CDFA budget for this program and how that's spent, and could we make any adjustments there, or should we just forget about that and say that's out of our hands? And then the second one is just, is there any way to think of a way for fiber or protein production, because that's the part that guys gonna lose out completely under this.
So Van, this is Michelle. So the board is allowed to make recommendations to the secretary on all matters pertaining to this division, including annual budgets.
Thanks, that's useful to know.
So Richard, it looks like we don't have any more hand raises from board members. Again, board members, you are already unmuted, so you can speak freely at any given time. Richard, would you like us to open it up to comments from the public?
Yeah, I think we should, Michelle. Yeah, let's open it up to public comments.
Okay, so we have a couple hand raises. The first one is Victor Barrio. You are unmuted and you can speak at this time.
Hey everybody, this is Victor Barrio from Pineworks. It sounds like there is a big budget issue when it comes down to the farmers, especially having to pay for it. I am not a farmer. I respect farmers no matter what side of the industry you're in. I am a manufacturer. You guys are looking to ban smokable hemp. That would take a company like us out of California into another state where we could be able to do this type of process. Why not think of it in a different way and go to the manufacturers like us and talk to them about a possible way of figuring out a way to fund this instead of the farmers having to take all the forefront of it. Somebody like us, we're more than willing to do something like that if it's something reasonable, unlike the Canada's laws where it's incredibly unreasonable. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor.
This is Josh Chase. I can give my opinion on that. I think that's a great idea. Unfortunately, I think that requires legislation to be passed to create new taxes on the manufacturers or processors. But yeah, I think it gets back to that point where I think we're at a point where the industry needs to create new legislation to, maybe it's taxes on processors or manufacturers, as well as possible other seed money or taxes, or I don't want to call it taxes, but some sort of seed money to at least help out the farmers so they can continue to research and develop this crop in California.
Yeah, and I wasn't necessarily talking about taxes. You know, obviously taxes are a slippery slope where cannabis is already overtaxed, where the black market is flourishing. I was talking more of a licensing fee or something along those lines, right? For me to be a manufacturer out of California, I would be willing to pay a licensing fee that helps the industry out by flourishing instead of, you know, not doing anything at all.
Hi, this is Michelle. I just want to reiterate that Section 81005 of the California Food and Ag Code in Division 24 authorizes the department to establish a registration fee and an appropriate renewal fee to be paid by growers of industrial hemp. So that's what we're authorized to currently do.
Got it. Thank you.
We have a few more hand raises. So let's start with Cerise Montano. You're unmuted and you can speak. You'll need to unmute yourself first. Cerise, still showing that you're self-muted, so you're going to have to unmute yourself on your end. Okay, it looks like Cerise is having difficulties right now, so let's move on to Josh Schneider. Josh, you're unmuted and you can speak at this time. You'll need to unmute yourself first. Josh, you're self-muted. You can unmute yourself to speak.
Sorry about that, Michelle. Maybe we'd like you to unmute yourself on your computer if you're logged in on your phone, or you unmute yourself on the phone.
All right, Josh, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're not coming in clear. I'm not sure if other participants on this meeting can actually hear you. Can you try adjusting your microphone? Josh, I'm not sure if you're trying to speak right now, but we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me, Michelle?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Michelle?
Yes.
Sorry, Michelle. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I have a couple questions about the connection between regulation and cost, and I applaud the task force study here to bring these issues to light. And I know that Ms. Herbert is struggling, like many of the ag commissioners that I talk to. We sell clonally propagated young plants out of San Diego, but work with many ag commissioners around the state. And one of the biggest problems that we've seen in terms of cost is that the ag commissioners tell us that they spend a great amount of time seeking clarity from CDFA. Just in the last 2 weeks alone, I have heard from 4 different counties' staff begging us to have farmers please stop calling them and call CDFA to beg for relief from these regulations that don't make a lot of sense to anyone. There is clearly a connection between the cost and complexity of the regulations, and so it might be worth considering a lighter regulatory footprint. All of these, like Lisa mentioned, the in-person inspections. Currently, we are testing every mother plant variety every 2 weeks, and now have the new regulations require a whole bunch of paperwork for every unrooted cutting we stick. There is no foundation in the legislation for the interpretation that San Diego County is using, and most of the other counties are lost in this as well. And so I wonder if it might be worth considering that the costs of compliance for the farmer are falling disproportionately on the county. And so perhaps encouraging the legislators to, for instance, develop a tiered system, for instance, for distributors, where a distribution permit might be a higher cost, for instance, for smokable flower. We've put all of the regulatory compliance on the back of the farmer, and all of that regulatory compliance must be enforced at the county level. But neither the county nor the farmer have a lot of power to influence the regulations, especially given that CDFA only publishes regulation under emergency standards, so that limits the feedback from the public about these rules. I think it would be well worth considering setting the agenda of the task force to look at setting up alternate tiers of funding for both distributors and retailers, perhaps a small excise tax, because I think that it's important that the entire regulatory burden not be carried by the farmer and the county, and we spread out that.
Josh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you please wrap up your last sentence?
Sure, that was it.
Okay, thank you. And this is a little off topic, that you made a comment as regards to the regular rulemaking or the rulemakings that recently were adopted. I will say that the last regulation, and we'll discuss it, was adopted through the regular rulemaking, not the emergency rulemaking process. So let's move on to the next comment that we have. So Jeffrey Nunes, we have unmuted you, and you can speak at this point.
Excellent. Am I loud and clear?
Yes.
Wonderful. With these numbers that we're putting on these fees, it's pushing the industry to try to make as much money as possible, and the much money as possible to be made is through CBD production. The indoor operations are only for flower. So if the flower market is deemed to be banned here in California, we're losing that option for your income. When we're planting for CBD production for biomass, we're losing all our nurseries. Now, what I'd like to see is a variation between not just grower and for seed, but for fiber, grain, herd. Those types of people aren't making the money that everyone's seeing the shiny object. So my question is, why are we treating this other than if it was corn? And with these major deficits that we're seeing, what is our representation in the hemp industry if we're putting this towards the agricultural commissioners or to this board? Where is our representation for this fee or taxation? I'll be more than happy to, just like every red-blooded American, to pitch in for our cause. But we need you as our leaders and our voice to the committees above you and to the boards above you to be our voice with the money we put in. So I would really like to see, if we're growing grain, we get charged a very low cost. And if we're growing fiber, it doesn't even have a flower. So these types of things are kind of going to be mute here in the near future. So we need your help to represent us. And are you willing to do
Josh and Vanessa, would you like to add any comments in response to that?
This is Vanessa. We were discussing to have at some point, and to have on the registration form, what are we growing? We are growing for CBD, for smokable flower, or for fiber or protein, and base the fees on that. However, Michelle, correct me please on the process. That is, unfortunately, that's a longer process, correct, to do something like that?
Well, that information is currently not collected and currently not required on the registration applications for applicants to note and identify what the purpose of the crops to be grown for. The other aspect of this is that we have heard from many growers that they're interested in a multi-use type of crop, which does add a complexity if the board is to propose some sort of fee structure based on crop purpose. The other thing that, and Vanessa and Josh, you can chime in on this, but I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, we talked about the potential issues where we really don't have any, the program is for cultivation and cultivation only. Once the crop is harvested for, there's no oversight on what the crop is actually used.
Correct. And we also discussed, I remember that if we go for something like that, then there would have to be more involvement from each county to go in and ensure that whatever we put, either they're growing for CBD oil, and for the county to go and check that that is exactly what we're growing for, and no smokable flower, for instance.
Yeah, and
complexity.
I'll put in my 2 cents on this as well. I think that's a great idea, having that tiered structure for protein and fiber and other uses. But also, that being said, out of the, I don't know, 100 or so farmers that I know producing hemp, only 2 or 3 of them are actually producing protein or fiber. Everyone's producing some sort of CBD product, be it smokable or for oil production. It's mostly cannabinoid production, so there just really isn't a big fiber or protein industry right now. So yeah, I'm getting back to the fee, this fee stuff. The board, we don't really have the ability to make changes to the law or start taxing processors or manufacturing companies. It really comes down to us, the board, and the public getting together and trying to create legislation that's going to work moving forward, because obviously this is not working. If we're going to be charging, say, $5,000 a farmer, there's just no way they're going to be able to compete with people in Oregon or Colorado that are farming for a tenth of that cost. And I don't know, it's not a good situation we're in right now.
Hi, this is Van. I have a question for the other board members, and it has to do with sort of the timing of when we need to act on this. It seems like there's sort of broad agreement within the board that there's lots of sort of legislative issues that need to be changed before the fee structure could sort of reflect what we would like it to reflect. And so I guess I'm curious about whether if we, let's say we don't act this year and we go further in debt for 1 more year and we try to work with our partners and the legislature and try to kind of fix some of the problems that are leading to these fee issues, whether that's a feasible thing or if we really don't want to, push it down the road another year and we need to enact the fees. I don't know. I'm just curious what other people would think.
This is Josh Chase again. I like that idea, Van. I think this is a short-term fix, or it's not even a fix. I think this really just kills it for a bunch of farmers that would like to continue to do hemp or get into doing hemp. I just don't know at what point does the CDFA decide just to implement their own fee structure. And from our conversations, or Vanessa and I's conversations with Michelle and Locke, it appears that they're kind of at the end of the road here, where they're just going to make their own proposal. But yeah, I think it is urgent that the community or public gets together and really creates better legislation this year that works for everyone.
Okay, we have a few more comments, public comments, so we'll try to go through these as quickly as we can. The next hand raised is from Kareem Kassim. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your last name correctly. Kareem, you can unmute yourself and speak at this time. Kareem, I don't hear you speaking, so we're going to move on to the next person. So Matt McLean, you have your hand raised. We're unmuting you so you can unmute yourself to speak at this time.
Thank you, Michelle. This is Matt McLean, a former IHAB member, hemp farmer. Just like to make a couple quick comments here. I think, it's pretty obvious that the legislative process and the regulatory process need to be intertwined. And when one hand does something that impacts the other hand's process, we're ending up with our hands up in the air. I'm curious as to why, I feel like the board already passed a base fee of $1,200 and why that didn't go into effect. Secondly, I think that the attempt to bifurcate cannabinoid production from industrial hemp production in the state would actually lower the regulatory costs, and the cost to oversee that. If you register as someone producing fiber or grain, that should require the county ag commissioner to go out less. You do your final test, and if cannabinoids are over a threshold percentage, say 1%, then you adjust their fee structure accordingly. Secondly, kind of to back up my first point, I wonder if throughout this entire task force registration fee process, if we've considered the $250 that's supposed to go to the UC system from every hemp registration, and how that factors into this, egregious taxation of growing agricultural commodity.
Hi, Matt, this is Michelle. So to answer some of the comments that you made, regarding the $1,200 registration fee motion that we received from the board, we haven't moved forward with that regular rulemaking. It was actually delayed in order for this registration fee task force to reevaluate things, because we were well aware that that $1,200 wasn't going to really make a dent into our current costs. So that's why that wasn't implemented yet. The other thing is, I'm not sure if I understand you correctly regarding the $250,000 you said that's supposed to go to the UC system. I'm not sure where that's coming from.
It's within the proposed legislation from the Assemblywoman whose staff spoke earlier. $250 from each hemp grower registration is supposed to go to the UC system for research and development, none of which has happened since the 2014 Farm Bill passed.
So that is currently being proposed in the current Assembly Bill 45, and I believe there's a Senate Bill 235 that is identical to that proposal in AB 45, but that is currently proposed, is not implemented, and from my understanding, that it's for that fee portion to go to the UC system for research is for the licensing fee for manufacturers and processors, not for cultivators.
And how will licensed manufacturers and processors be regulated? Will that be by the CDFA or CDPH?
No, it will not be by CDFA.
So none of the funds collected from that process will go to the CDFA fund, which regulates industrial hemp growing?
No, I don't believe so, but you can check the actual bill for specifics.
Is the staff member still on the call? The chief of staff?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, so we have a hand raised from Wayne Richmond. So you're unmuted, Wayne. You can unmute yourself and speak at this time.
Okay, good. Good. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Well, thank you. Yeah, Wayne Richmond, President of California Hemp Association. Wow. Lots of comments. So let me first start by thanking Josh and Vanessa for the work that they did. It was a deep dive, and I really appreciate all the effort that it took to get that together. The one comment I would make there, and I think you're really proposing kind of the only solution that's viable at this point in time. So in that regard, I support what you're putting there. I would suggest, though, the indoor square footage be changed to, instead of a penny, 10 cents. Flip that number around. And I'd be just slightly happier with what is obviously a very bad situation. You know, in the real world, meaning the private industry world, of which I come from, this would be a business you'd shut down. This is a microcosm of what's wrong in California and what's wrong with legislation in California. People don't readily recognize that the state is in the hole on the pension programs to the tune of over $1 trillion. And this is why the voracious appetite for taxation on all levels comes about. It's endemic to the system. There is no reason for these kind of budget overruns. It is malfeasance as far as I personally am concerned, and the concern of many of our members feel the same way. If the CDFA wants to basically shove this down our throats, they can expect that we will sue them. We will go for a temporary restraining order. I'm just letting you know straight up, that's what you're in for. This kind of at hands or at arm's length kind of budgeting and telling us what to do is not how this country works. The Constitution starts with we the people, and you all work for us. We don't work for you. So while everyone else here wants to be nice and generous and flowery in their comments, I for one, and representing our members, we're fed up. Very good comments from Mr. Nunez. Matt made some good comments there. AB 45 has got a lot of things that are wrong in there, and the taxation structure is just part of it. And so I do hope that Mr. Ferrer was sincere in his reaching back out to us at CHA to hear what we all have to say. So those of you who are interested in supporting that kind of voice at the table should contact us at CHA and see what we can all do together. Having said all that, you know, we don't have any information on how much destruction is taking place, how much law enforcement action is taking place. And I'm just wondering, do we have any of those numbers and any of that information anywhere in our collective database?
Wayne, no, we do not.
That seems to be really important information, particularly when we're talking about county agreements and impacts to the counties and their need for, you know, doing the same as all counties must, cover their costs by way of fees. But what I really want to point out here is there is
Wayne,
such.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
So can you
Yes.
wrap up your comments? You've exceeded the
I
time
will,
limit.
Michelle.
Thank you.
Yes, I was about to wrap it up. And so my wrap up is, this is the result of tone deafness at the CDFA, period. And I will leave it at that. You've heard the rest of my comments. I reflect the membership that represents most of the farmers in this state. We sit at the national table. We understand. We work with the USDA and other interested groups. So this program is on life support, is what it looks like, and we need to fix it somehow. So let us all join together and tell the legislation what we need. Don't ask them for their permission. I'll leave the comments at that. Thank you very much. And thank you to the board for all the hard work that you folks do and for spending your time, what may seem fruitlessly, but it's not fruitless. The farmers need you and appreciate your efforts. And Josh and Vanessa, again, you did great work, and I really appreciate the deep dive that you did. So thank you very much. Stand in my comments.
Thank you, Wayne. So we have a written comment or question from Valerie Milano. She writes, is it required that we maintain a reserve balance, or is it just a recommendation? And is it somewhere we can possibly buy a little time? So Valerie, it is a recommendation from CDFA for revenue-based programs. We haven't come close to even meeting that recommendation. And I believe based on the proposal that Vanessa and Josh presented, you know, we will slowly work out of our debt and reach into some reserves by the end of fiscal year 30-31, I believe. So.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, so real quick, we have two more commenters, and then I think we can kind of wrap this conversation up. So I'm going to really quickly read the comments that we have received. So Ed Williams wrote, it seems that any feeds on the end products will also be used for the Department of Public Health to monitor those items and would not necessarily be for the agricultural regulators. And Ed, you're correct. I believe the proposal in Assembly Bill 45 has to do with hemp manufacturers and processors. And then Josh Snyder just shared with us the code section regarding the board's purpose. So Josh, I'm not sure what this is in relation to, but for those of you who are on this meeting, if you would like to review the code section that sets the board's purpose, you can go to and look up section 81.001, subsection E. There you can find the purpose of the board and what they can make recommendations for. And so, Josh, thank you for the clarification. It was in relation to the power of the board to make those recommendations. So at this time, Richard, would you like to continue on with the agenda and follow up? We already had the public comments and we have had the board comments. So at this time, would you like to seek a motion?
Would anybody like to make a motion on the board?
Specifically on the registration fee task force fee proposal.
Yeah, on the fee structure. Yes.
Yeah, that's currently being presented on the PowerPoint.
This is Lisa Herbert, Ag Commissioner Board Member. I just have one comment regarding registration amendments. There is a little bit of concern amongst Ag Commissioners that asking for $100 per amendment may cause them not to notify us when they do make changes in cultivars. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you. Well, I don't hear any motions. So I'd say let's move on to the next item.
Richard,
Go ahead,
this is
Michelle.
Michelle. Vanessa and Josh, would you like to speak on that as far as the board moving forward without a motion today?
Well, why don't, I mean, this is a very unpopular item. And even if I think we were to make a motion, we're probably not going to get this through rulemaking until next year. I think all levels of the industry have concerns about it, you know, from the commissioner's office, the public. I just don't know. I mean, what's your opinion, Michelle? I mean, are you guys going to just take this and propose it yourself, or if we don't make any proposal today, or what is the next step at the CDFA if we don't propose something today?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what our next step will be. However, we are concerned that our program is not sustaining itself, so we will be looking at reevaluating the registration fee if we do not have a board proposal.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I mean, typically, if the expenditures are greater than a budget, you try to raise some revenue, which you can do through registration fees, but you would also look at streamlining your side of it. And I mean, I think that's like what a lot of the disconnect is it's hard to tell what CDFA is doing, and it's hard to tell how efficiently you guys are spending your budget. And so, I mean, is that part of the evaluation, or is the evaluation like, no, we're doing it right and we just need to raise revenue? I guess that's where there's, for me anyway, that's where there's some tension involved in trying to figure out what to do here.
And Van, yes, I can respond to that. So the program is really running kind of bare budget at this point. We have staff to handle the current activities. So yes, that would be part of the evaluation moving forward, is evaluating what we would have to cut as far as program activities. And ultimately, you know, the one major issue right now is that we have a lot of rulemaking that still needs to be developed in order for us to be federally compliant. And there are still a lot of a high need for us to support the public and the commissioners during this process.
To me, it would, you know, and Michelle, I thank you for, you know, you've showed us the budget going into the future at previous meetings, and, you know, it shows things like a bunch of new pickups and stuff like that. And I understand that, you know, maybe you need new trucks or whatever, but I think, I don't know, it feels like I think there's probably some hesitation on the part of the board, or at least on my part, to really say, this is all a matter of simply getting a little more money from the farmers. You know, it'd be interesting, for example, for you to come back to us with a budget that said, hey, here's what we're going to have to cut if we can't raise the fee. And then we could say, okay, well, that's a good deal. We'll go ahead and do those cuts and we'll keep the fees the same. Or we say, okay, yeah, the program can't function with those cuts. We need to raise the fees. For me, that would be useful in trying to make a responsible decision here.
This is Rob Porchella. Sorry, Rob Porchella here. I would like to follow up. There was a comment earlier about streamlining the counties and the amount of money that was being paid out to the counties, sort of streamlining the way in which they operate under the guidance. I'd also like to see under the personnel services where, you know, what's $800 and something thousand. Where do we, you know, what is the breakdown of that? That's I'd be curious to see where we could save some money on the personnel services side of things, $843,000, and then reduce significantly the county agreements if there's a way to streamline that. I think that's something that we should break into a little bit further if we have not yet, as opposed to just raising the fees. Because I'm of the opinion that, you know, the $100 per acre fee is going to be cost prohibitive to many farmers, and that's going to hamper our industry significantly.
Rob, this is Michelle. So we did review in detail the program's budget and broke down the personnel costs in our last meeting with the registration fee task force. So the meeting recording is available online for those who are interested in getting that breakdown. And then to your other comment, we will be, again, reviewing the program activities and seeing where we can cut costs. But as I stated before, this program is operating kind of, you know, bare bones at this point. So if we are to cut personnel, we'll be looking at cutting program activities for sure. And then it looks like we have a comment from Valerie Milano. So she said that she is not comfortable with this budget and thinks it needs more work. I would like to see more detail with this before we act. In addition, all states have been required to follow federal guidelines. How are they making this work? I know you said they had kicked in funds to start, but to what extent? Can we see that information? Josh and Vanessa, I don't know if you can provide more specific details to Valerie regarding that, but I believe that was shared during the registration fee task force meeting back in October.
Is there anywhere else that we can seek money besides just tacking it onto the farmer?
So this is Michelle again. What the law currently authorizes CDFA to do is to establish the registration fee paid by registered growers and breeders to fund this program. Richard, this is Michelle. I'm not sure what's happening, but you're providing a little bit of feedback on your end.
Sorry, Michelle.
Not a problem. It seems like it stopped. So Richard, we don't have any additional comments from the board or the public at this time.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Josh and Vanessa for your report. I know it's a tough thing to do, the budget here, and it sounds like we'll have more discussion on it later. So moving on, we have the brief update on the state plan, rulemaking, and other program activities. Can you hear me, Michelle?
Yes. Okay, so I'll be presenting and providing a brief update on the state plan, rulemaking, other program activities. Next slide, please. So as far as rulemaking goes, the emergency regulations for registration and criminal history reports have been readopted on January 7th of 2021. The readoption will allow CDFA to continue with the regular rulemaking process to amend and permanently adopt regulations pertaining to registration and criminal history reports. Most recently, the planting, sampling, and testing for THC content harvest and destruction regulations were adopted on January 11th, 2021 and took effect immediately. A copy of the California hemp law and regulations is available on our CDFA hemp web page if someone is interested in seeing all the regulations and laws in one place. Next slide. So in regards to our status of the California State Regulatory Plan for hemp cultivation, we don't have much of an update since the proposed state plan was submitted to USDA for review and approval on September 17th of last year. We're currently in the process of reviewing the final rule to determine the impact to our proposed plan, and we have planned to amend current regulations and develop new regulations as needed to ensure compliance with the final rule. It's important to note that once we have a state plan approved, sections 81004.5 and 81012 in the Food and Ag Code and amendments to section 8100 will take effect once we have a state plan approved. Okay. And then, so we have one update on, we have, in addition to the rulemaking and the state plan update, we have some other program updates. The program is currently routing letters of interest for the 2 board vacancies that we advertised late last year to the Secretary for selection. We recently hired 1 additional environmental scientist at the beginning of this year. The program staff has been busy working on reviewing and approving applications for laboratory approval. We're also continuing to collaborate with county staff on administering and enforcing the program. We have updated the webpage with new forms, templates, and other information, including the FAQ. And lastly, we've been responding to public inquiries and educating the public regarding state requirements for hemp cultivation. Next slide. We do have one update on other activities within CDFA that's related to hemp. The CDFA Market Enforcement Branch is responsible for licensing, inspection, and enforcement of the California state law and regulations for the handling, manufacturing, processing, and selling of farm products for the purpose of resale or processing. They have begun accepting applications for licenses for hemp on January 1st of this year. For more information regarding Market Enforcement Branch and their licensing requirements, please visit the webpage provided. Their contact information is also available on their webpage. And that's my short update for the board on program activities. Is there any questions from the board? Okay, Richard, it seems like we don't have any comments or questions from board members. Would you like to proceed?
This is Luke Wilson. Where did you say we can find the what the CDFA submitted, the plan?
Oh yes, the plan, I apologize. So the plan is available on the CDFA Industrial Hemp webpage. It's under general information. I believe the link is proposed hemp plan or hemp state plan. Let me pull it up really quick, and I'll double check that for you. But it is available on our main webpage. It's one of the first couple links provided under general information. Okay. So the title of that link is Proposed California State Regulatory Plan for Hemp Cultivation, or sorry, hemp production. But again, that state plan will need further amendments since the final rule was published. So Richard, it doesn't look like there's any other comments or questions from board members. Would you like to open it up for members of the public?
Michelle, this is
Yeah,
Luke
any
again.
public. Okay.
Yeah, is that, so that proposed plan is on the CDFA website? Is it under the industrial hemp program?
Yes. And we can share you the link directly after this meeting, if you like.
Okay, thank you.
It looks like Joshua Chase has a comment or a question. Josh,
Yeah.
you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I have a question, and it goes back to the I guess it's the reconciliations with the county agreements. And I thought I heard earlier that only $500,000 had been recouped by the commissioners last year, and then in our budgets, though, it shows 1 point something million. Can you elaborate on that, or did I hear that wrong? Or
Lisa, can you answer that question? Yeah.
Yes, Michelle, I'm here. Thank you, Josh. And I apologize, Josh and Vanessa. I didn't tell you great job on your efforts. Yes, so in 1920, due to COVID-19, many CDFA contractual agreements were not paid to county ag commissioners. So not just the hemp program, but others. The county agreements were in total $1.4 million. So if you take $2.3 million in shortfall, and then you add the 1.4 as if we received everything, we would still be short. The majority, especially in my county, the monies, the 544,000 monies that were collected, I'm speaking for my county only, those were direct bills to the grower for sampling. So we charge time and mileage to sample, and that is what we recovered. So I recovered, I had a shortfall of 125,000. My contract was 36,000. So even if I would have been paid my full contract amount that fiscal year, I still would have had a tremendous shortfall.
Okay.
And to add on to Lisa's response, so there is a delay in payments being forwarded to the counties, but we are expecting to have all those invoices processed and paid in the near future. So from what I understand, those have been forwarded from our department to the Secretary State Controller's office, and they are going to be issuing those checks soon.
And one thing to remember that the county contracts were cut for this fiscal year. If last fiscal year we were in agreement of 1.4, I think this year it's only at $1 million. So we've already been cut. My contract now is about $12,000 per year. It will hardly cover anything. It will cover some registration activities only.
Okay.
Any further discussion from the board regarding this agenda item?
Richard, we don't see any hand raises or comments from board members at this time.
Okay, any public comments on this agenda item?
So we have one hand raised from Wayne Richmond. So Wayne, you've been unmuted.
Okay, good. Thank you. Wayne Richmond, President of California Hemp Association. So regarding the state plan, it always seems to be a couple of steps behind what's going on at the USDA. As I interface with both, it's pretty obvious to me. What I would ask Michelle in particular, as you review this, remind yourselves by looking at the law on the federal level that destruction is not the word used in any way, shape, or form in the Farm Bill. So that really should be disposal, and you should think about ways that disposal works. And if you need the definition, Merriam-Webster Dictionary is pretty right on. That's my main comment. The other part of that comment, if not to you, Michelle, who is the OAL person or persons responsible for writing these rules and creating these plans? Because we've never met them, to my knowledge.
Wayne, the rules are developed by the program, and then we promulgate these rulemakings through, or the regulations through the regular rulemaking process.
Well, I know you really don't want to hear from me, but I have to say, you know, again, tone deafness, a lack of understanding farming, a lack of understanding business, all of those deficits are right here and right now available for anyone to see. And it's why we've got a program that is millions of dollars in debt with not much to show for it. And the fact that you're hiring a scientist, for what purpose is a scientist being hired? I mean, these are some of the many questions. I'm not going to go off into that portion of this, but as you look at the amendment, destruction is not even an option, okay? The word is disposal. So I suggest you strike that kind of thinking and that kind of wording from the state plan. Thank you, and that'll be the end of my comments on this subject.
Thank you for your comments, Wayne. So the environmental scientist classification is just a classification that our department uses. It's just a common one that we use, but also many departments use that classification series. The other thing is your comment regarding disposal. We recognize that the final rule does speak about disposal, including remediation. However, we're restricted by our current laws as far as what is required to as a result of a failed test report. And Section 81006 in the California Food and Ag Code does state that it requires destruction at this time. I believe there is a new bill, Assembly Bill 292, that was recently proposed that will further amend the Division 24 of the California Food and Agricultural Code. So that is something for everyone to take a look at and keep in mind during this legislative process. So we have two comments from Leah, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your last name right, Kammermich. So the first question was, what has been USDA's delay in approving CDFA's state plan? Will CDFA have to revise the state plan with USDA given the issuance of the final rule? So that is correct. We will have to revise the state plan and resubmit to USDA for review and approval. From my understanding, the final rule will actually impact all approved plans, and all other states will have to amend accordingly as well. The second question is, what is this timeline to establish a new rulemaking to comply with the final rule? Will CDFA conduct a regular rulemaking or make changes via emergency regulations process? So we don't have an anticipated time frame at this point. We are working hard to have those regulations developed and then posted for public comment. I can't speak on if they will be following emergency regulations or rulemaking or regular rulemaking at this time.
Any more public comments on this agenda item?
So Richard, we don't have any more, we're not showing any more hand raises, and we just got another question from Leah. Do you expect USDA to act on the state plan before CDFA is required to amend it per the final rule? I don't believe so. We have a general understanding with USDA that our state plan needs to be amended. We are in communication with USDA, and so we'll be seeking clarification on some of the requirements in the final rule as we revise the state plan. So,
okay.
Richard, we have one more. Sorry, it's just last minute. We have Josh Schneider who raised his hand. So Josh, you're unmuted, so you can speak at this time.
Thanks so much. a quick question on the requirement to change the sampling collection process. One comment is that I noticed that it uses calendar days from the date the sample is taken. And given the COVID restrictions that have been imposed on the state by the governor and public health sensibility, the labs doing the testing are often delayed. And so under the current rules of the 14-day testing window, counting calendar days doesn't account for the fact that the labs are often 10 to 12 days behind right now because of COVID. I also note that no longer are testing labs allowed to do the testing themselves. So now we have to use a USDA staffer or appointed designated sample taker. Do you guys have any idea how many of those people are currently in the state of California, and whether this is going to create problems for compliance, just logistics? Our county has told us we must request testing 20 days in advance. Then the USDA and the county send someone out, and then the 14-day clock starts ticking from the time the sample is taken, not the time you get the results. So obviously this presents substantial challenges in logistics on the farmers' side, but really the main question being, how many of these USDA testing agents are there, and how difficult is this going to make it for the farmer?
Okay. Hi, Josh, this is Michelle. So just to clarify, I think you're using the wrong term, but I believe you're talking about sampling agents, USDA approved sampling agents instead of testing agents. So right now, the way that our current regulations are written, it harmonizes with the interim final rule, which states that it's basically anyone who's approved by USDA to sample or the commissioner. From my understanding, we are anticipating some sort of additional guidelines from USDA regarding those sampling agents. So when we have more information from USDA, we'll gladly share it with the public.
But you've made it part of the process now, and you don't have the information about who these people are and how many of them there are?
No, but we do have information on commissioners who are able to sample.
Because San Diego's told us we have to have both. And then they tell us, well, we'll call CDFA and ask them again, and get back. So there's quite a bit of confusion on that front, I would say, at both the county and certainly at the farmer level.
Well, thank you for your comment, Josh, and we'll follow up with San Diego County.
Thank you.
Yes. So Richard, at this time, I think Josh was the last public comment that we have. So you can proceed, Richard.
Okay, we'll move on to public comments on matters not on the agenda.
So we have a hand raised by Wayne Richmond.
Do we have
Wayne,
any public comments on?
Yeah. Hi.
Yes, Wayne Richmond, you can speak now.
Yes, good. Thank you. Wayne Richmond, President of California Hemp Association. Well, very informative meeting today. Thank you all. Not sure most of us liked the information we heard. One of the questions I wanted to ask, has the CDFA applied for any grants such as the NIFA grants that USDA was handing out that might help alleviate some of the financial pressure that we're all under?
Hi, Wayne. This is Michelle. So no, we have not applied for any grants. I believe the grants are for the purposes of research, hemp research, and our department does not conduct any research.
Yes, that may be true, but I understand in AB 45, as well as the failed bill last year, AB 2020 or SB 2025, included monies for CDFA and for research. So you certainly must have known about that, right?
So I can speak upon the current proposed bill, AB 45. Again, as I mentioned, I believe that that money will be collected from hemp manufacturers and processors to fund those type of research.
Mm-hmm. But you're saying that your department has not sought to avail itself of any of the many grants that are available through the federal USDA, SBA, or other like groups, right? So I guess the answer is no. You guys are just going it alone, right? On our dollars.
Wayne, Wayne, if you'd like to share with me any information about grants that you think we would qualify and could apply, feel free to share it with me. From my understanding, I haven't come across any grants that would be applicable to our program at this point.
Okay, so perhaps then you would like to throw some support behind the California hemp industry stimulus bill plan that we are putting forth with Governor Newsom on the same level that we have put forth with the Biden administration. Would that be something you think you guys might be able to support conceptually?
I can't speak about that, Wayne. All I can say is we do, look at the current hemp bills that are on the docket and currently being proposed. So whatever gets proposed, we'll take a look at it.
Okay, well, good. Well, that's at least a positive note. Let me just make a final thank you to the board members again for all the work done on behalf of hemp farmers in California. And for those who don't know, today is the very first day of the World Ag Expo. So kind of odd that we're having this meeting on the very day the World Ag Expo, but so be it. It's digital. For those of you who'd like to check it out, there are at least 2 sessions today that are related to California state law and pending legislation on the federal level and USDA rulemaking. My session starts at 2 o'clock. It's pre-recorded, so you'll be able to see it at any time, but there will be at least live Q&A for those who are interested. There are other great programs, so I understand it's free to everybody, so I would recommend everybody go sign up and participate in the World Ag Expo. Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to have comments today. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. So it looks like we have a hand raised from Jeffrey Nunez. So we'll unmute you, Jeffrey.
Okay, I'd like to also agree with Wayne. You guys are doing such a great job. I know that coming into this without as much education as the people you're taking comments from on the hemp side, I do applaud you. I do think that you guys are research and development. This is never, I can't say never, this hasn't been done in the last 100 years. We do have some major hurdles to accomplish, but I think together we can accomplish it. I do like to say that if we are going to go for the CBD production, the processing, if you could give the farmers the rights to put the right molecules in the right place, if you can understand that if we're dealing with CBD, which is more even CBG, CBN, with all the minor cannabinoids as a health supplement, that's understandable. But then we're left over with this looming elephant in the room, and that is the THC that is remediated. If the processors could actually have access to getting these molecules to the right people, that would alleviate a lot of headache. It would bring more income for the farmers that are hitting that 0.3%. With that 0.3%, we have legalized hemp farmers for possession of THC. Now, with that THC being remediated, if the farming industry then takes it to a processor, and those processors can get that molecule to the cannabis industry, the marijuana industry, that would create revenue that would help this cause. It would bring additional funds to the farmer, to the processor, that would enable them to pay you the money that we're looking towards the golden prize, and that's to keep everyone on in the regulatory system regulated. Now, with that being said, California has already legalized marijuana production. So THC is already here. There is no fear. We just, if someone's growing and processing, if they could have the ability to take that THC and put it in the THC market, I believe this is the fix that you guys are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Richard, we don't have any more hand raises or public comments at this time.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Well, our next meeting for the Industrial Advisory Board is on May 11th. And do we have a discussion of agenda items for the next board meeting?
So, Richard, this is Michelle. Going back to the date, May 11th, that's the tentative date for the next board meeting. To all the board members, we'll be sending out a quick either doodle poll or email. Please let us know if you are unable to make it to that meeting. Otherwise, we will proceed with scheduling it on May 11th. Now, for those folks who are joining us on this call, this is just a kind of give some information or background to the dates. Last board meeting, it was recommended that we scheduled quarterly meetings, so this is our next quarterly meeting that we had set up for 2021.
Thank you, Michelle. Do we have any discussion of agenda items for the next board meeting? Hello?
This is Josh Chase. I guess we should continue the task or the fee task force conversation. We possibly could do a 2022 or 2021-2022 budget task force for the CDFA and counties. Yeah, I guess updates on the pilot program. Those are a few that I can think of off the top of my head.
I think we should do a, I don't know, study task force on the smokable flower portion of the industry. I mean, it sounds like, I'm not sure how, how big CDFA realizes that portion of the industry is.
Hi, Luke. This is Michelle. You mentioned about having a task force for smokable flower and investigating the industry. Can you give a little bit more specifics as far as what the scope of this task force would be?
It seemed like, I'm not sure I talked to at CDFA last year, but they were unaware of the size of the smokable flower industry in California. It was kind of surprising. And I know myself, most other hemp farmers that I know are specifically growing smokable flower. I believe it's 68% of all hemp grow smokable flower. So it surprised me that ban proposed in AB 45 to help the industry. It really seems like they'd be trying to do it. So I don't know if there's anything we could do as a board to educate everybody, or I don't know. I just think it should be taught.
So Michelle, I have a question. This is Vanessa. I think it's very important to discuss a smokable hemp, but what I don't know is whether if it's going to make an impact to discuss it at this level, at the CDFA level, or perhaps you can guide us to approach more the assembly and put the efforts there.
I'm sorry, Vanessa, I lost you at the end. I couldn't really understand what you were saying.
Yes, so I agree that we need to discuss the smokable flower. Right now, that's really the market. But what I don't know, if we create a task here with the city, here with the CDFA, if it's going to make a difference. And if it's not going to make a difference, then maybe those efforts can be applied to at the state, the assembly level.
And
guide us.
This is just my suggestion to the board. We could try to get another update if there are changes on the Assembly Bill 45 and see if we can get a presenter to speak about that. As well as far as when it comes to smokable flower, I can try to see if there's someone that can speak upon general requirements that may be currently applicable to smokable flower. That's something that I can do, but I'm not quite sure if the board has a clear mind if there was a task force to be created for smokable flower, what that task force would be investigating or doing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I mean, we are the Industrial Hemp Advisory Board. You know, I feel like taking our whole point is to educate the CDFA on the industry. And I feel like we're not really doing it if we're, you know, this is a major part of the industry, and it's what my whole business is based on. So I, you know, to do any advocating that I can. And about it.
Thank you, Lucas. Yeah, the board's main purpose is to make recommendations to the Secretary regarding Division 24 of the California Food and Agricultural Code. However, yes, it is a good venue to provide some public, I guess, education on certain parts or aspects of the industry. I'll explore the options and I'll work with Richard Soria, the board chair, to develop the agenda for the next meeting.
Sounds good, Michelle. Do we have
Richard,
any other?
Yeah, we have Wayne Richmond, who has his hand raised, so I think he has a suggestion for the next agenda.
Yes, hi, thank you, Michelle. Hi, Wayne Richmond, President of California Hemp Association. So what I'd like to ask the board to add to the agenda is something that Michelle and I and other board members have kind of batted around, which is one of the seats on the board is reserved by law for the Hemp Industries Association, or its successor organization, period. That's the controlling sentence in the law. For those of you who don't know, the HIA has virtually imploded. They have no state chapters, hence the new formation of the Standing Committee of Hemp Organizations, which we are a founding member. I would request that the agenda item be put on to define the HIA seat to reflect CHA's rightful standing to take over that seat on behalf of California farmers, as we are, by all stretches of the imagination, the successor organization, although funnily enough, we're the only ones who were here before they started a state chapter, and we're still here after their state chapter was disbanded. So my suggestion for an agenda item would be, let us define the HIA seat once and for all to be open to any state hemp association, period, whether it's ours or any other organization that seems to pop up that's interested. And I think all we need really is the definition of the word "its" back to a Clinton era time, right? The word it's, and it's not possessive. I'm an English major, so it's really how you folks define it. I think you have the choice of doing that rather than it going to become part of a legislative push. Anyway, that would be my suggestion. That way we'll get some other farmer representation on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. And Richard, so that is all the comments that we have.
Thank you, Wayne. Am I still there, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any other discussion on agenda items for the next board meeting?
I do want to have some clarification. Richard, this is Michelle. So I would like some clarification as far as what you would like the registration fee task force to work on. Is it continuation of developing a proposal, or is there, I guess, a new direction for that registration fee task force?
Hey, this is Josh Chase. I'd possibly like to give up my seat on that, and maybe I would suggest maybe having the agricultural commissioner and maybe look at that as well, or someone else to get a fresh perspective on it.
And Vanessa, you're unmuted, so you can speak as well.
I was going to suggest the same thing, but I don't want to abandon. Yeah, I could. It's hard just to. I could bring. I would suggest Lisa for this, since she can also. She's very knowledgeable, and she can also speak for the county, for the counties. I don't know, maybe we can, if no one else is interested in joining the task, and I know it has to be 2 members, I can stay as part of the task force and bring Lisa up to what we have done. Otherwise, if someone else is interested, we can also do that. We can just bring them up to date and bring, like Josh said, a fresh perspective. But I definitely think that Lisa will be, if she's interested. I don't want to put her on the spot. I think that she will be someone that would definitely benefit the task force.
Hi, this is Michelle. So Richard, as the board chair, you are able to assign people to certain task force on your own. So those are just some suggestions or recommendations from the current task force members. I will, I guess, put my 2 cents into this and request that we don't have both current task force members to vacate their position on this task force, because a lot of energy, effort has been put into investigating and researching all the information to develop the proposal that was presented today. So for the sake of, not having to start from scratch, I would like to request that at least one of the current staff task force members stay on.
Yeah,
again,
I'd agree with you there, Michelle. Yeah, they've put in a lot of work.
Yeah, and
I think
again,
Vanessa. Sorry, this is Josh. I think Vanessa is willing to stay on there.
Yes, I'm willing to stay.
I just think I've exhausted what I can learn about it and propose, and I think maybe we need, some sort of fresh perspective on it.
Is there any other board member that?
So if we would like to take nominations, I'd nominate Lisa on it as well.
Yeah, I'd second that.
Would like to join Vanessa? on the committee there.
I'm sorry, are you talking to me? This is Lisa.
Yes,
Do I
think the
hear
question-
anybody?
Right, Richard, the question was for Lisa if she wants to join the board, the task force.
Yes, I would be willing to volunteer my efforts to be on the task force. Thank you.
Hi, Richard. Are you still with us, Richard?
Thank you. Hi, Michelle.
Yes, I'm here.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Who was that just said they'd like to be on the? Who
That was
just said they'd like
Lisa.
to be on the task force?
That was Lisa.
Okay, Lisa.
Herbert.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Okay, yeah, I'm breaking up, so we have Lisa and Vanessa.
Oh, Richard, are you
Excellent. Any
assigning-
other items?
Richard, this is Michelle. So just to clarify, you are assigning both
Yes.
Vanessa and Lisa to the registration fee task force.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Do we have any other items for the next agenda for the board meeting?
This is Josh Chase. I think we should create some sort of budget task force too to look at next year's budget for the CDFA. Maybe Van, are you interested? You sounded interested in looking at that.
Yeah, I can take a look at it with somebody else, and I think that would just probably involve a Zoom call or two, and then some coordination with Michelle to probably just get some updates on some of the numbers she's provided before, and a little bit more detail about that. So yeah, I can do that with somebody else.
Yeah, I'd be willing to help you on that as well.
Okay, yeah, let's do that, and then that could be nice if we have both that and the budget task force, and then also a registration fee that would fit together nicely.
Okay, so and Josh, just
Well,
to
thank you,
clarify,
Van.
Josh, just to clarify your suggestion, as far as the budget task force, what are you thinking as far as the task force goals and purpose?
Just to evaluate the overall budget for the CDFA and the counties, and then make a recommendation for next year.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other agenda items for the next board meeting?
One more thing, getting back to Wayne's recommendation on the seat for the.
Okay, well, the next thing would be adjournment.
I'm sorry, Richard, Josh is speaking about Wayne's, I guess, previous comment. So Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think if there is a seat available for industry association, I think that would be valuable for the board to have that position filled. I don't know how we'd go about, doing that, but I think it would be valuable to have that position on the board.
Hi, Josh. This is Michelle. So we as I mentioned before, the letter of interest that we have received for the 2 vacancies that were advertised last year are in the process of being routed to the secretary for review and selection.
Okay,
So
sorry, I missed that.
So we can provide an update at the next meeting.
Okay.
So Richard, just for formalities, are you assigning both Van and Josh to the budget task force? Are you forming that task force and then assigning them to evaluate the program's budget and make recommendations for next fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't make a motion to designate someone from the California hemp industry person.
Do we have
for a seat?
any other items? Go ahead.
Did I hear that right? That we can't make a motion for?
I'm breaking up.
Did I mention, or did I hear that we can't make a motion to have an industry association person on the board?
Hi, Lucas. This is Michelle. The board can't make any motions on items that weren't on the agenda for today's meeting.
Okay, but we can put it on the next meeting, correct?
Yes, if it's on the agenda, yes.
Okay, great.
Are there any other items for the next board meeting on the agenda?
Richard, it looks like we have one.
So the next thing would be adjournment? Yes.
Richard, I apologize. We have one last minute comment from Wayne Richmond, and then I think that will finish up the meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
hi, thanks, Wayne Richmond. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So thank you for allowing me this last comment. I just want to say thank you, Lucas. Please raise the point and add it to the agenda. I hope somebody will second it, maybe Josh as well, so we get that on there and resolved, because we have people here ready to serve, but because of this peculiarness of the folks who worked for HIA in the person of Patrick Goggin when this law was originally listed, they put their name to that seat. They no longer exist, and the language does allow for a determination by the board as to who represents its successor organization. And as Chris Boucher was a member of both organizations and still is a member of CHA, I would argue that there is no question that we are the successor organization, as he was a founder of HIA and he is part of our founding crew at CHA. So if you need more determination of that, please feel free to check us out. The Standing Committee of Hemp Organizations, as now sponsored through the NHA. We are the only organized hemp voice in California. So Michelle, my question to you is that you made comment that the 2 seats remaining open, I assume one of those is the HIA designated seat. Is that correct? One of those is,
yes. Yes.
So how could that be if there's no HIA state organization? How could there be an applicant for that seat?
Again, as I mentioned, all letters of interest had been routed to the secretary for review and selection.
Well,
so
you know,
sure
you and I have had emails for months over this subject matter, and I'm really quite dismayed to hear that this is the route you've chosen to go, when all other well, unless you're opening up to everybody, as I made the suggestion, that the law needs to be changed, we are the successful organization. So anybody else in that who's up for an applicant for that seat is not qualified. And we will make our voices known legally if we have to regarding that seat. So we've had this conversation. You and I have gone emails back and forth on this. I've asked for it to be put on the agenda. You chose not to put it on this agenda. So here we are again, having this conversation unpleasantly in open public forum. And I would respectfully suggest that I think everybody wants to see it on the next agenda, on the next meeting. And I wouldn't be waiting till May. I'd be waiting till March, maybe April at the latest. There is an urgency for farmers to get on with this stuff and putting off meetings every 3 months. The reason the 3-month rule that David Robinson asked for and got was a backstop. So in case all else failed, at least there would be one quarterly meeting. That was the whole purpose of that vote and his suggestion, because he could see that there was reluctance by you or others to set meetings on at least a monthly basis. And I and our members would like to see a monthly meeting. It doesn't take much time. We're all doing it remotely. There's no travel, there's no expenses other than computer time. So let's get on with getting on with the work of farmers, please. And let's get the agenda item set for the seat. Who's ever you're proposing for that seat with the secretary doesn't belong there. And you're just creating more friction here than I think is necessary. So I'm going to leave the comment at that. I hope to see it on the next meeting's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Do we have any other items for the next agenda? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, Richard, I can hear you. I do not see any additional hand raises or written comments from the public or the board at this time.
Okay, well, I'll call for adjournment at 1:04 then.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you for everyone for participating on today's call.
Got that, Michelle?
Yep, that worked. Thank you.
I'm breaking up.
Richard, you came in loud and clear for me. So for those of you who could not hear Richard, the meeting was adjourned at 1:04.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yes. And thank you again for everyone who joined in on this call today.